Sorry, got cut off there, guys. So, this will be part 3, I guess. Let me see here. This will be part 3 of the 3rd lecture. It got cut off. Let me read this again. Let me follow this up with a passage from Luther's commentary on Galatians 2, 3 through 4. Luther says, "Accordingly, when your conscience is terrified by the law, and you are wrestling with God, the judge, do not consult your reason or the law, but take your stand alone on the grace of God and His word of consolation. Cling to this and act as if you have never heard a word of law. Enter into the darkness of Exodus 20 and 21, where neither the law nor human reason gives its light, but only the dark word of faith. The believer relies with a certainty on being saved in Christ, without the law and regardless of it. Thus the gospel without and regardless of the light of the law and reason leads us into the darkness of faith, where the law and reason exercise no authority. We must indeed hear the law also, yet in its proper place and at the proper time. When He has come down from the mountain, He is legislator and governs the people with the law. In this manner our conscience is to be exempt from the law, but ours is to obey the law. Hence, any person who understands well how to distinguish between the gospel from the law may thank God and know that he is a theologian. In times of tribulation, indeed, I do not know how to do this as efficiently as I should. Both teachings are to be distinguished in such a manner that you place the gospel in heaven and the law on earth, that you call the righteousness which the gospel proclaims a heavenly and divine righteousness, the righteousness which the law proclaims, an earthly and human righteousness. The two types of righteousness. That's another sermon by Luther. That's very good. And that you are careful to distinguish the righteousness of the gospel from the righteousness of the law, as God, with great care, has separated heaven from earth, light from darkness, day from night. One of these doctrines shall be the light of day, the other the darkness of night. Would to God that we put them still farther apart? Therefore, when we are speaking of faith and are ministering to men's consciences, the law is to be utterly excluded. It must remain on earth. When you treat of what men are to do, light the night lamp of works, or of the righteousness that is by the way of law. Thus the sun and unmeasured light of the gospel and of grace is to shine during the day, the lamp of the law, however at night. A conscience then that has been thrown into terror by feeling its sin should argue thus: I am now engaged in earthly tasks. Here let the donkey labor, slave, and carry the burden that is laid upon him. That is to say, let the body with its members be subject to the law. But when you ascend to heaven, let the donkey with its burdens leave the donkey with its burdens on earth. For the conscience of a believer in Christ has nothing to do with law and its works and the righteousness of this earth. Thus the donkey strays in the valley with the conscience, with Isaac, goes up into the mountain, ignores the law and its works, and keep its eye only on the forgiveness of sin, on nothing but the righteousness which is exhibited and given to us in Christ. This point of doctrine, the distinction between law and gospel, we must needs know because it contains the sum of all Christian teaching. Some of the wording is bad here, the editing. Let every one of you who is zealous to be godly strive then, with the greatest care, to learn how to make this distinction that is in his heart and conscience. This is important. The distinction is made easily enough in words, but in affliction you will realize that the gospel is a rare guest in men's consciences, while the law is their daily and familiar companion. For human reason has by nature the knowledge of the law, Therefore, when the conscience is terrified by sin, which the law points out and magnifies, you are to speak thus: there is a time to die, and there is a time to live. There is a time for acting as if you were ignorant of the gospel. At this moment let the law be gone, and let the gospel come. For now it is not the time to hear the law, but the gospel. But how about this? You have not done any good. On the contrary, you have committed grievous sins. I admit that. But I have the forgiveness of sins through Christ, for whose sake all my sins have been remitted. However, while the conscience is not engaged in this conflict, while you are obliged to discharge the ordinary functions of your office, at a time when you must act as minister of the word, a magistrate, a husband, a teacher, a pupil, it is not in season to hear the gospel, but the law. At such time you are to perform the duties of your profession, etc. Our own righteousness is to serve us for this life, but the righteousness which the gospel brings us is a heavenly righteousness. We shall hear anon that law and gospel must be kept apart, not only in the sermon, but above all in a person's own heart. That's the third part to the third lecture. Sorry, it cut out last time, and as usual, we'll be putting... You can get this on Amazon for $13, 450 pages at cost. Check out Jordan Cooper, who puts this out. Justin Sinner Publications. Jordan Cooper on YouTube. Lutheran pastor, theologian. Excellent. One of the best channels you're going to find on Lutheranism for introductory stuff, for deeper stuff. Jordan Cooper. And he has a website as well, I believe. Justin Sinner. Just type in Justin Sinner, Jordan Cooper. Also, this will be in the description. A version of this book, an older version of Walther's work here, the proper distinction between law and gospel. I will have that in the description, the link, so you can follow along as well. Thanks for bearing with me as it cut off there a few minutes ago. Lord willing, we'll pick it up tomorrow with the fourth lecture. Have a blessed day.